going to be talking about escape hatches as an urgent anti-censorship solution for specific types of transactions. So we don't want to talk about universal transactions, that means every transaction, but just specific transactions. Just a quick disclaimer, my talk does not necessarily reflect the opinion of a Starware, the Starnet Foundation, or the Starnet community overall. This is my own opinion, and if there's any mistake, any stupid thing that I might say, it's on me. So the hypothesis here is that it is fine, it's okay if not all businesses want to implement decentralization right at that moment, like immediate decentralization. That is okay. But they might want to implement self-custody and anti-censorship in a different way. In this case, the escape hatches. I think this is okay, and we need to think that, or think about that decentralization is not the end, it's a mean to an end, that in this case is self-custody and anti-censorship. And there might be another paths, there might be another ways for specific applications to be able to apply anti-censorship and also self-custody to applications. Now, decentralization, of course, is the goal. Decentralization is the best thing that we can, I think, that we can go for. However, we know that decentralization is very, very, very hard to attain. It's not simple, and if we think as a business, they might not want to immediately decentralize, but they want to create a profitable business that is also self-custodial. And for that, we might have another option that are the escape hatches. And businesses and entrepreneurs needs to know this. They need to know that there's a possible way for them to legally, and this is an important word, legally claim that they provide self-custody to their clients. This is very important in order for us as an industry to get more entrepreneurs to build on top of our networks. Now, let's think about, let's put our heads in the head of a business owner, an entrepreneur. This person is not a crypto native. They might be a Web2 company, and let's call the company Trading FinTech A. So for this Trading FinTech A, the main priority, of course, is profitability. They want to earn money, they want to earn resources, they want to be able to pay the families of the employees, they want profitability. And self-custody could be an add-on, could be a value, an added value for their clients. Maybe this company heard about the crazy FTX story, and they heard about the crazy founder of FTX and how they rob millions of persons, millions of dollars, and they want to be able to tell their clients, hey, this is not going to happen with me, because whenever you want, you will be able to withdraw your money. So I promise you this, you will be able to withdraw your money whenever you want. So this FTX case won't be happening. But notice again that the priority is profitability, and this is another value that they can add to their clients. Now, non-censorship for them, and actually legally, would mean that users should be able to withdraw their funds independently, that is, without third parties. So they can withdraw the money permissionless. They don't need to ask permission to nobody. So this is the escape hatch. And for this, we need to define what escape hatch and what the powers of the escape hatches will have. Escape hatches, and we will review it later, need to be very precisely defined. They need to be as minimalistic as possible. And in this case, we will have only two transactions that we care about, that we care for them not to be non-censorable, not to be censorable, or for them to be self-custodial. And these are the full withdrawal and the forced trade. Basically, whenever you want, you can have your money back, and whenever you want, you can make a trade that you want to do. This is for them being self-custodial and non-censorable. Now, what is the moral of the story? And I think that you can agree with me that there are a lot of business like this. I am not saying like something crazy. This is an actual business case that we have seen several times already. Of course, I won't say names, but this is common. Companies might not want to decentralize immediately. Maybe they want to decentralize later. Or maybe they don't want to decentralize at all. But they want to provide self-custody, and it's okay, and we want them. Okay, we want that. But we need to make it as easy as possible for them to do this. because decentralization is very, very hard to do, and we can see that with layer 2. I think nobody has already a decentralized network because it's hard. So the moral of the story is that self-custody is a selling point for companies. Like, I don't know, I like to think of myself, and maybe, I don't know what you think, but we are kind of middlemen creating tooling for entrepreneurs to actually build the services that will bring self-custody and non-censorship applications to the whole world, to millions of people. So for them, for the entrepreneurs, they care about profitability, and for them, self-custody is a selling point. We are not FTX, basically. And also, entrepreneurs care about the regulatory scope. And for them, in order to be legally self-custodial, you need to be able to claim and also prove that the users can withdraw all the funds. And this is not a theoretical case, this is the actual case. You can say that you are non-custodial if you show and prove that users are able to withdraw the funds whenever they want. Now let's imagine that this trading fintech company A is very good. They have a lot of business acumen and everything went right. So they were successful on this, so they boost profits and user satisfaction. It's great for them, but at the same time, they also boost security and autonomy. And we as a crypto industry, with our own values, we care about that. We want security and autonomy for everybody, as long as possible. We want to bring it to everybody, right? So it's a win for them, but also a win for us with our own values that might be different from theirs. So in this case, we could say that blockchain delivered on its promise of self-custody. And I am saying delivered, because escape hatches, of course, are not perfect. Forced transactions, forced withdrawals are not perfect, but still, they provide a non-censorship tool that is very relevant and in practice has been already implemented several times in the StarkX ecosystem. So, I don't know, maybe this is something that we need to think about, like what do actual entrepreneurs, in the sense of services that go to the people, what they want? How can we make it as easy for them to provide self-custodial services to the rest of the millions of people? So, as a conclusion, we could, let's remember that the trading fintech A is aiming for immediate self-custody for users. It's important for them. But that doesn't mean instant decentralization. So immediate self-custody is not the same as immediate decentralization. This is important. We can provide it other ways as the escape hatch. Now, let's go deeper into the escape hatch, what they are. Because it's important for me to say, and I forgot to mention it before, that when we are talking about decentralization is the best thing that we are looking for. Of course, for example, in the Starnet case, we want to have everything decentralized, and we're working towards that. However, decentralization is very useful for all types of transactions. It doesn't matter the transaction, you create a smart contract, you deploy it, you have different types of transactions, and all of them will be non-censorable and will provide self-custody and so on. However, escape hatches provide self-custody both for certain types of transactions, as we show with our business case. Those are forced withdrawal and also the forced trade. And I will show you an example, a specific example, and a real example. But before, let me tell you what an app chain is in the case of Starnet. However, I don't want to shield Starnets. It's what I know the most. But the app chain concept, you can see it in other layer 2s. So, no problem. Basically, an app chain is a chain that is dedicated to a specific application. We could say it's kind of like the layer 3, where you will have applications with certain rules, but that they want to be fast, cheap, and also keep the security of the layer 1. And yep, basically they are specific applications, not universal blockchains. And if you go into L2Bit, you will see that from a lot of the different layer 2s, several of them are actually specific applications. So for example, we have a Starnet, Mantle, Polygon, and so on, and these are universal blockchains, universal layer 2s. So they have a lot of different transactions, and decentralization is effectively the best way to go. However, we have applications such as DYDX, ImmutableX, Loopring, Apex, CK Space, and all the ones that you can see there in purple there are actually exchanges, NFTs, DEX, etc. So these are application layer 2s. This is no new. And actually, a lot of them are coming from the StarkX ecosystem. You can maybe recognize them like Sorare, DYDX, Immutable X. And what is interesting here is that these companies already implement escape hatches successfully. And when I say successfully, it's really successfully. This is the DYDX case. You can see in L2 bits all the forced transactions. That is all the uses of the escape hatch that have occurred already. And more than 150 transactions have been already forced. For whatever reason. It doesn't mean that DYDX is doing something malicious or something like that. It simply means that people are trying the escape hatch, and that is perfect. And we have had even transactions of millions of dollars. So escape hatches have been managing the transactions of millions of dollars already in production with DYDX and other applications that are on top of StarkX. And I don't know, maybe you can tell me in the questions, maybe I'm wrong, but I have not heard any complaint regarding censorship in DYDX yet, or this type of applications. They are passing, and that's enough. We want to withdraw our funds from DYDX. Do we want to do something else with DYDX in case they become malicious? I think what I care the most is getting my money back. And that is enough for escape hatch. Now let's look at the architecture of a escape hatch in the StarNet ecosystem. So this is the escape hatch in StarNet is inspired by the StarkX escape hatch, like the one that I mentioned before with DYDX. However, this is the new version of the escape hatch, and this is going to be possible to be used as an app chain, so permissionlessly. Because the StarkX, you need to ask permission to build on it. It's not ideal, of course. So that's why we have StarNet, and we will allow people in app chains that we could call the layer 3 to build whatever app chain that they want, such as DYDX, for example. We can imagine it as a layer 3, as an app chain. So where we can imagine them as an app chain. I am not telling you that they will become app chains, but they could. And this is the new implementation of the escape hatch. So basically what we have at the bottom is the layer 1, the Ethereum layer 1. Then top on the right, we have the layer 2 app chain with two different smart contracts called the forced transaction handler and the balance calculator. Basically, the balance calculator has the balance of the resources of the user, and the forced transaction handler is basically it handles the transactions. We have the user in the middle, who is able to call a escape tool. And then we have the sequencer. So let's imagine that for whatever reason this person wants to withdraw his funds, her funds, from the fintech trading company A that we talked before. This doesn't mean that the company had to be malicious or something like that. It could be the case that they just want to try it. So imagine that they start the execution of a forced transaction. So the first thing is that they will call the forced transaction queue smart contract in the layer 1. They will call it, and then maybe another person will call the same smart contract and add another transaction, and we'll have an effective list, order list, of different forced transactions. Then these transactions will be sent to the StarNet core contract in layer 1, which handles the L1 to L2 messaging, and they will notify the app chain that indeed we have already a queue of forced transactions that we need to revise. This way, our trading fintech A will be notified that they need to do something with these forced transactions, and then we have certain incentives. So two things can happen here. Let's assume that the transaction was valid. So our user is actually claiming for funds that belong to her, okay? So then our application will see the petition and will determine if it's valid or not. Let's assume it's valid. They will say, okay, this transaction is valid, and then they will notify the user that indeed is valid, and the user will be able to use the escape tool, which consists of basically Madara, which is our sequencer, and then Stone, which is approver, to create a proof of funds and send it to the verifier. In layer 1, the verifier will create a fact to the started app chain bridge so that the user can effectively obtain her funds from the started app chain bridge. That is a successful case as the ones we saw already with DYDX. This is what is actually happening there. Both could be the case that the transaction is invalid. So we can think that the person that is asking for the resources is actually malicious, and she is trying to spam the network, and then she sends an invalid transaction, and in this case, the company will say, okay, this is invalid, they will notify, and nothing happens. Now, let's think that everybody in our company die. Everybody die, or they turn malicious, or something like that. Then they have 7 days. They have 7 days to tell if the transaction was valid or not. The first transaction is valid or not. 7 days. Most likely 7 days. Sometimes it could be 14 days. The most normal thing are 7 days. If during those 7 days they did not answer to the queue, then they will be freezed. The app chain will be freezed, and this is a huge penalty for them. So they will be freezed. They won't be able to make any money, and that is actually what is happening with the StarkX applications that already are using this mechanism, and they will be freezed. And then everybody will be able to withdraw their funds. So they got freeze, and me as the user can use the same escape tool to use the balance calculator smart contract and see how many funds I actually have, and they will be able to withdraw using the StarNet app chain bridge the resources in the layer 1. So this is in case the sequencer got malicious or everybody died or something like that. Now, so this is the architecture, right? Now let's talk about what are the problems with escape hatches. They are not perfect. And if you ask anybody that is working with escape hatches, they will tell you that the main problem, the main issue that they have, they think about this, is the denial of service risk. So they can easily get spam. For example, you can attack DYDX by sending a lot of forced transactions, like, I don't know, imagine 1 million forced transactions, and DYDX has 7 days or something like that, I don't remember, it's 7 days, 14, to comply them all. In case they do not comply with them all, even if a single transaction is not attended in 7 days, then they will be freezed. They will be frozen, and you will be able to have your to claim the money that you're claiming for. So this is a way that you can attack this type of networks. So escape hatches could be of high risk in those senses. Now, how we are solving it in StarNet is that basically it is very expensive. It's very expensive to do a forced transaction. So imagine it's 1 million, I don't remember, but I think it's 1 million gas to do a forced transaction. So if you do 1 million transactions, then it will be 1 billion, the cost of the spamming attack that you're doing. So this is, of course, not the best way to do it. We are still thinking about what is the best implementation in order to prevent this type of attacks. But if we make it as expensive as possible, they won't be able to, spamming would be very, very expensive for them. And at the moment, we haven't seen any spamming attack yet. So that means that this is working for now, but we might need to think about another approach. Now, another problem is the contract upgradability. If you can update your contract, then you can bypass the freeze. This is another problem that we need to think when we're talking about escape hatches. So maybe the two most important ones is the spamming risk and also the upgradability. Yes, basically in StarkX, to the best of my knowledge, you cannot update your smart contract as easy as possible. So this is something that we have to take in mind when we implement it in the StarNet app chains. So basically, what are our next steps in StarNet? And I want to finish with this. We will implement escape hatches for app chains. And this is completely new. It was announced yesterday. We'll have escape hatches for the app chains. And specifically, I think that it will be with DeFi applications. Like for gaming or other type of applications, it will be different. It will be a little bit complex. But for DeFi, we could have escape hatches for them specifically, like those that DYDX are using, Sorare, and so on. So I think this is very cool. And the second thing is the question, the open-ended question, should we implement escape hatches for the public StarNet layer 2? I don't know. It's a technical challenge. It's a big technical challenge because, as I told you before, escape hatches need to be very, very minimal. They need to be as small as possible with as minimum transactions as possible. Otherwise, their attack vector is much, much bigger. So, yes, to finish, I want to tell you that All this is relevant because, again, I like to think of myself as a middleman creating services for entrepreneurs to actually build I am a middleman creating tools for those that are building services that can take self-custody and anti-censorship to the millions of people that are in the world. So we need to make them as easy as possible for them to be able to claim, to legally claim, and prove that they are self-custodial. If not, these entrepreneurs, maybe they won't care. They won't care. And they will go on with their life because decentralization is too hard for them and self-custodial is impossible. So they will go on in their life and maybe they will become the next FTX. Thank you.